Today I'm bringing you guys my favorite build in the game currently. I've always been a big sucker for ability spam in this game and always looking for a build that gives you so much energy you never know what to do with it all. Well, I finally found that build because the final shape brought with it Prismatic Warlock. Prismatic brought so many new cool combos that we never knew was possible in the past, and I finally landed on what I think is the best build to fit my needs. So without further ado, you can call me Trig, and let's get into it. Starting off the build, we're going to be talking about our brand new exotic class items. And you may be thinking, oh no, I have to farm another exotic class item, but it's not as bad as you may be thinking, because we are only looking for one specific perk, Spirit of the Osmiomancy. Of course, pairing it with another specific perk like Spirit of Verity or something would be a little bit more beneficial towards the build, but this is the only perk that really matters. Typically, Osmiomancy gloves only work with cold snap grenades, but when it is on the exotic class items, it works with any prismatic grenade on your Warlock. We are going to be pairing this with Vortex Grenades because it hits multiple times, and every single time you get a hit with Spirit of Osmiomancy, you get roughly 20% of your grenade back. So if Vortex hits over time or hits multiple targets, we'll get a good chunk of our grenade back already. Quickly going over our aspects, we have Feed the Void, which is just a staple in Prismatic Warlock because it just gives you very, very strong ability in Devour. So whenever we get an ability kill, we proc Devour, and we can continue that by getting any kills. So weapon kills and any super kills, anything will contribute to Devour and increase the timer. The Devour effects are improved. It is pre-nerfed Devour, and it'll just instantly heal us on any kill as long as we start off the fight with an ability. We will get 10 seconds of Devour, and as long as we are killing targets, it'll keep the timer up. Our second aspect is Helion. This is a brand new solar aspect that whenever you use a class ability, you get a solar mortar. It's just a solar buddy that shoots out projectiles, kind of like Arc Buddy, but it's a little bit slower, a little bit more like a cannon, and it will scorch any target damaged by it. It has a pretty nice range, it does a pretty solid amount of damage, it can ignite if you're fighting a boss or something. We are spamming our class ability a good amount as well, so this is just a very helpful aspect. It's not needed by any means if you wanted to run the slide melee lightning surge, or you wanted to run Weaver's Call from our Threadlings or something, then go for it. But I think Helion is wonderful and it's a nice addition to the build, but it is absolutely not needed if you don't prefer it. While on the subject of using our class ability a lot, we're going to get into our first fragment, Facet of Balance. This is the main fragment for the build because it will be helping us cycle our abilities a lot easier, because whenever we get multi-kills with this fragment equipped, we will be getting a certain amount of ability energy. So whenever we get 3 or more kills with light damage, we'll get 15% of our melee energy back, and whenever we get 3 or more kills with our darkness damage rapidly, we'll get 15% of our grenade energy back. It is a nice cycle because we are using Arcane Needle and Vortex Grenade together, so whenever we throw our Vortex Grenade, we're going to get some of our Arcane Needle energy back, and whenever we throw an Arcane Needle, we'll get some of our Vortex Grenade back. This also works with weapon damage types, or when you're in your super or anything of that sort. It's just light and darkness damage specifically, so anything that has a damage type tied to it will give you ability energy. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with kinetic weapons, but the fragment's already so powerful that we don't really need it to. The next fragment we're going to have in the build is Facet of Purpose. Facet of Purpose is very simple. Whenever you pick up an Orb of Power, it'll give you an elemental buff based on your super. So if you're using Song of Flame, for example, which I currently am in the build, you will get Restoration, which is very powerful. When you're weak, you just grab an orb, you'll go back to full health. When you're using Needle Storm, which I use in the gameplay in the background, you'll get Woven Mail when you pick up an orb, which just gives us a nice solid damage resist to all damage incoming to us, keeping us alive longer. It is a very strong fragment for how simple it is, because its whole goal is to keep us alive. Very nice, very helpful to have on. Our third fragment is Facet of Awakening. Since we're getting so many rapid kills, and that's the whole goal of the build, to cycle abilities and throw as many as possible and kill as many targets as possible as fast as possible, we have Facet of Awakening because whenever we get multi-kills with any elemental damage type, we will spawn an elemental pickup, which means we can get Fire Sprites if we're doing a lot of solar damage, we can get Traces if we're doing a lot of arc damage, we can get Void Breaches, and this will all come back to give us more ability energy throughout when we're picking up these things. So if we get an Ionic Trace, we get a little bit of ability energy to all of them, or a Fire Sprite, we get grenade energy, and so on and so forth. This also will give us Tangles, which can just give us more rapid kills, which will contribute to Facet of Balance, giving us our grenade back more often. It's a very helpful fragment, and I wouldn't recommend taking this off. I feel like at first glance, you don't think it's that great, but with how much ability energy we're trying to cycle, it is very, very helpful and impactful. Our fourth fragment pairs very, very well with Facet of Awakening, and that is Facet of Honor. Whenever we collect an elemental pickup or destroy a tangle, it's going to grant Transcendence energy to both types. I am not positive on how much energy it gives, but I'm certain it's a significant amount because I can always have my Transcendence up for almost every engagement I go into. It's very, very helpful, and I definitely notice the difference between having this fragment on and not having it on. Our final fragment's Facet of Bravery. Now this is the most interchangeable fragment. If you wanted to use something like Facet of Protection instead, then that might be a better solution for you if you want more DR. But I thought this was a nice change because I use the Call sidearm a lot with this build, which is a strand sidearm. So whenever I get a grenade final blow, it'll give my strand weapons unraveling rounds and my void weapons volatile rounds. So if you want to use a void weapon or a strand weapon, this is a very good fragment because it just gives you extra damage with that weapon, as well as letting you multi-kill a lot easier with volatile explosions or unraveling those little buddies that fly around and hit other targets. Very, very helpful fragment, but it is also not needed for the build. I just prefer it over the other options. Rounding on our subclass, our class ability and our super aren't really specific to the build. You can use whatever you want. I personally prefer Phoenix Dive on this build as it comes back a little bit quicker than the Rift, so I can pop my Helion a little bit more, get my buddy out there more, as well as having like an insta heal button. If I just pop my class ability really fast, I can go back to full health really quickly. As for super, you can use either Needle Storm or Song of Flame are the two I would recommend with this build. Cataclysm Nova Bomb is pretty solid now, but I definitely do prefer Needle Storm over it, and Song of Flame is just brand new, it's super fun, it's ability spammy, and that's exactly up my alley, so that's what I prefer to use mostly with this build, but Needle Storm is great if you were going into a boss fight. When it comes to weapons, there's nothing in particular you have to use with the build. I would recommend a demo weapon if you want to use something like that, but my current lineup is the Call sidearm from the Pale Heart. I'm using the new Raid Arc Bow that has Volt Shot on it because it can get multi-kills and chain really easily to give me more melees. And I just have Microcosm on, it's my heavy. There's no real purpose for Microcosm, but it's just here because it's fun. It's a kinetic weapon, gives me both Transcendence energies really well. It does a solid amount of damage after I use my super. It's not a bad weapon, but this one is definitely the most interchangeable. Use whatever heavy you would like. Our mods are suited for ability energy, and that's basically only any purpose. There's no surges in this build or anything. There's nothing to help you with boss damage, so if you want to go lean more that way, then feel free to change the mods up. But starting off with our helmet, we have our Siphon, which use whatever primary weapon type you have. So since I have the Arc Raid Bow on, I have Arc Siphon on, so I get more orbs from that because I get a lot of multi-kills with that weapon. I have Ashes to Assets, so whenever I get a grenade kill, I get more super because I like to spam Song of Flame and Needle Storm as much as possible. And then I've rounded it out with Powerful Friends because I only had one slot left, and it's a very strong mod if you're playing in a group. Gauntlets, we have Firepower. Firepower is just to create more orbs. We're going to use those orbs to contribute to our grenade kickstart. We also have on the chest piece Charged Up, as well as Stacks on Stacks, so that we can have 4 armor charges and that we can use all 4 towards our grenade. Get roughly 30% of our grenade back, very helpful. Do have a fastball here. I know a lot of people don't like this mod, but I had one extra slot, threw it on. Use whatever resistances you want on your chest piece to finish off your chest piece. As for boots, I have Recuperation and Innervation on, so we can get grenade energy whenever we pick up an orb, roughly 10%, and then we can also get a big chunk of healing when we grab an orb. We're going to be grabbing orbs a lot, so the health is really nice, especially if you're using Needle Storm and you have Woven Mail, you don't have a healing option. Recuperation is that healing option. Class item, we just have the classic Bomber, Reaper, and Powerful Attraction on. It's Powerful Attraction whenever we use our Phoenix Dive or whatever class ability you choose, you will grab every orb in a vicinity around you. Reaper, so whenever we do use a class ability, we spawn another orb with our next kill, and Bomber, so we get grenade energy whenever we use our class ability. This build's already very strong without the artifact, but these artifact perks this season are centered around Prismatic, and they just make it so much better. You don't need to worry about anything in the first 2 columns. Use whatever you want suited to the weapons that you are using. The first perk you want to look out for is in the 3rd column. It's called Threaded Blast. Since we are spamming Thread of Awakening as much as possible, we are getting a bunch of tangles if you are using a strand weapon. This will just make it so you get a larger explosion, you deal more damage with the explosion, more rapid kills, give you more grenade energy when you use this artifact perk. 4th column, you want to really focus on Radiant Orbs. It's the only one that really matters because whenever you pick up an orb, your weapons will do 25% more damage for a certain amount of time. I opted in for Galvanic Armor as well. Since I'm using an arc weapon, I'll be amplified a lot, get extra damage resistance, very helpful. In the 5th column, you want to look for Transference and Shield Crush. These just make it so your melees and grenades do extra damage while also getting them back a little bit faster. You also get extra Transcendence energy when you end it, when you get weapon kills. Both these artifact perks are not needed, but they do make the build a lot better. So don't worry about using the build without these. It'll still excel, but these do help tremendously. The build's very simple as how you want to start off every engagement. You want to throw one of your abilities, whether it's your melee or your grenade. Typically you want to Phoenix Dive as well, or pop a Rift, whatever you have, so you can have that healing source from your Rift, or Phoenix Dive so you can get Helion. That's the primary reason to do it. Helion will then damage a bunch of targets, your grenade will damage, or your melee, you'll get the other one back. It's just a cycle, you want to spam those. Second you get Transcendence, pop that. You'll have a long time in Transcendence as long as you're spamming abilities, because the mods do work while in Transcendence, so you will be getting a bunch of grenade and melee energy while in there, as well as the increased time, so it's a lot more spammy in that ability. And then if you pop Song of Flames, you also have a lot more spam just in general, because that super has a ridiculous amount of regen on your abilities. It's just ability spam. You want to engage every ability or every fight with an ability so you can get Devour, you can start getting energy towards the other one, and that's basically it. It's a very, very fun build because you're just spamming your grenade, melee, and class ability, and then supers whenever you can. And that's about it. It's just really fun to run around. I recommend you try this build. Change whatever you would like. Like I said, there's a few things that are very flexible, and yeah, you can get most content done in the game. I did a GM with this build, it's very good. I did raids with this build, very good. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. My name is Trig. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed, and have a good day.